Welcome Northeast Conference fans to the latest NEC Now podcast on the NEC Overtime Pod. Today, I am joined by St. Francis Brooklyn's Director of Athletics, Irma Garcia, to discuss her trailblazing path up until this point, as well as the importance of Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you so much for being here. I do really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you for the invite. I always love speaking about Hispanic Month. It's a privilege to have that opportunity.
Of course. So going off of that, just right away, it's a pretty broad question, but what does Hispanic Heritage Month mean to you?
I mean, we get to celebrate people of culture and an opportunity for people to recognize the good things that men and women who are Hispanic have done, who have paved the way for many others. And so the celebration is not just about in the past, but what's happening today, and hopefully celebrating the future as well. So many of our Hispanic, and for me, I'm Puerto Rican descent. I'm New Yorican, and my parents are from Puerto Rico. But I know that this is an opportunity to also mingle with some of my Hispanic friends that are, Dominican and Peruvian and so forth, Mexicanos and so forth.
Yeah, and growing up, how did your Puerto Rican kind of heritage and culture influence you?
Well, in Spanish, and I can only speak because growing up, I'm one of 8, and we're all a year apart. Those are my best friends, 7 girls and 1 boy, and everybody thinks feel sorry for him, but Manny is, he's a blessing. He knows how to treat a woman because he had 7 sisters to deal with. And we all kind of taught him the right way. So, but being in Hispanic, we're family. We're all about family. And it's not just the immediate family. We tend to have cousins and more cousins and third cousins and fourth cousins that people may not know. I know my 4th cousin. And so we're about celebrating as much as we can. We always love to have fun. We eat a lot of Spanish food. I try to, I have my mom with me now for the last month, and I could tell you that I've gained some weight, and but all good because I love the food that she cooks. But it's about having personal relationships with each other and continuing the history of what we've done growing up. I could tell you that growing up, we were always, it was Garcia's against everybody else. Mm-hmm. And in any sport that we did, so softball and baseball, but, I'm a true lefty, so they always stuck me behind catcher or outfield. They said, get out there. And plus, and when we were younger, we didn't have gloves that were for lefties. Mm-hmm. So I created my own. So that was pretty cool. But I really, really, really can say that family is the one thing that will stick out. We really care about our mom and dad and care about our cousins and so forth. And the good thing is that anybody who comes in contact with us becomes family as well.
That's great. That's so good to hear. So sweet. So for women in collegiate athletics, you face challenges to begin with associated with gender bias. But for women of color, these challenges are often amplified as you also face racial or ethnic biases. Can you speak a little bit about your experiences being a woman of color in athletic administration and also coaching? Because, you're the St. Francis women's basketball coach for 11 years.
Yeah. I remember when I was coaching, one of the good things about being Hispanic, you always look younger. I don't know what it is, it's in our genes. And I remember many times when I walked in to a gym that I've never played, against a team that we've never competed against, and they always went to the male coach and acted like he was the head coach. So I always found that funny, and always that when they turn around, she's the head coach, and they'd be like, what? Okay. Not only did I look young, yeah, but they were like a female coach. Mm-hmm. And back then it was kind of rare. It was mostly all male coaching women. And, I mean, the one thing that I could share with you that, when growing up, my parents only knew Spanish. Their English was kind of, second nature mm-hmm. to them. And so they had broken English. So that's what I learned first was Spanish. And then I learned their English, which in turn, it was broken English. So I've always struggled with speech And I'm not afraid to say that now. I probably would have said I wouldn't say that maybe 20 years ago, but just seeing that, going back and saying that was the one thing that people don't realize, that, you know, for me, sometimes I'm thinking Spanish wise, man, in reality, it's trying to come out in English. But I've gotten better. I had 12 years of speech. So one of the things was like my SH used to be THs or CHs, and I don't want to say those words, but you know what I'm saying.
Exactly.
And so I've been lucky enough that I've been surrounded by women that can help me get through my fears, and someone has been being able to get up in front of 300 people and speak. I can do that now. One of the things was move in a room. I can do that very well now. But it's just a matter of being comfortable in your own skin, and which I wasn't when I was starting, even as a coach, a young coach, always second guessing myself. But as you surround yourself with good people that will help you get through some of your fears, and which they have, and here I am. I'm comfortable in my own skin now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, you sound great. You get your point across very, very well. I mean, I stuttered on my words in the first sentence.
Oh, I mean, stuttering was very like, yeah, yeah, but no more.
No more. And when you were named St. Francis's Director of Athletics in 2007, you became the first Division I Latina athletic director and remained the only Latina in this role for a few years after your hire. What was it like being not only the first, but also the only?
Well, I mean, I tell the story all the time that I found out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember President Dr. Macirola saying that I was going to be interim. And of course, just typical female saying, well, I can't do it. You know, I don't even know what it is. I won't do it. That's okay. Thank you, but no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also invited to, back then it was NACWA. And it was a National Organization for Women Administrators, and which is right now it's called Women's Leaders. And they're the ones who told me about that I was going to be the first. And Gloria Navarez, who is now the West Coast Commissioner, incredible woman, we became really good friends. And she kept saying, no, we got to let people know. And she did the history. She tried to figure out who was going to be it, and if there was anybody before me. And she says, no, you're it, and you got to own it. And so I did. And one of the things I learned early on is to be humble, and that and we'll talk about this a lot in the Women's Leaders Organization. It's not about me, it's about what I do with me. Like what this came in front of me, now it's my job to do something with it, and to not only be the only one, but it's a shame that 2007, I was the only one, but to make sure that there's other women that have an opportunity to come through those same doors that I did. And you know, you need those mentors and people who can just support you. And I'm so humbled to know that I was then, but I'm also recognizing the fact that it's important that other women understand that they could go through those same doors. But having said that, I think we've moved the needle, not a lot. I mean, I would like to go like this, but it's gradual. But I could tell you that we do meet the women's leaders. There's on a weekly basis, and there are some powerful women who are just encouraging, and they just think outside the box and so creative, and you know, be able to, you know, we're in COVID and be able to handle all kinds of situations. So here we are.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk, you know, about, I don't want to say the door because there have been many, but what brought you back to St. Francis. And I say back because you were a student at St. Francis, you attended and were a women's basketball player, but St. Francis is frequently regarded as one of the most diverse colleges in the country. Hispanic and Latino or Latina students make up the largest ethnic minority at around 20% of the student body, depending on the year. What is it like being an alum of such a diverse institution?
I'm so proud, and I get chills when I think about it, but it's a place where it's home for me. People say you can move on, you can do other things, but there's so much work to still be done at St. Francis. It has that Franciscan value, which means to serve and be a servant. And when you say that, you serve from the heart. And I think we've had this conversation before, but it is so crucial that the student athletes reflect if I am being Hispanic, I think if the kids are Hispanic or people of brown and black color, that there should be some representation. And so I get many of the young ladies who are young ladies of color that will come up to me and sit and have those conversations. And for me to say, hey, this is how I did it in St. Francis, and these are some of the things that I had to struggle with, but we can do more at St. Francis. So when you graduate, you have better opportunities than I even had. But I love St. Francis, everything about it. It's about family, it's about caring, it's about community. And I think that if more schools were like that, I think kids will recognize the fact that they not only learn book smart, but they learn outside of book smart. And so I know that when student athletes graduated from St. Francis, they're going to know more. They're going to know the day-to-day stuff and how to deal with people, how to move a room, how to talk to someone and share what they care about and listen to what other people care about. It's about both. You know, you listen, and then if they want the advice, to give it and move on. But St. Francis is a special place, and the fact that I am an alumnus and was able to go back and help and share and learn from the students and learn from my colleagues, I can't think of a better place to be at.
Well, it's great to hear that, you know, you feel you're at that right place for you. And something you kind of touched upon in that previous answer was that you're able to be a source of representation for such a large amount of the student body, you know, not just student athletes, but students in general. So like, what has that been like for you?
Well, you know, I have an open door policy. I really, our president is Cuban American. And so, you know, I always say that Cuban Americans, or Cubans, especially my president, President Miguel, he mumbles, and I think Cubans don't want you to really know what they're saying. And I'm like always trying to articulate, but he doesn't understand my kind of Spanish either, so it's pretty funny. But he has allowed me to grow in the role that I'm in. He has allowed me to be part of the cabinet, and so I take pride in what I do when I work with not only our student athletes. I have an open door policy. I've taught classes at St. Francis. Actually, I'll tell you a funny story is that I was teaching class, it was 8 o'clock, and every time the lights were always off. I can never understand, kids love to work it in the dark, right? Okay, I didn't know, right? And so I turn on the light and go, "You still here?" And then they would laugh, but it was more of conversation in those classes. I want them to learn the real world, and I didn't want to teach it just book smart. I just want them to learn from experiences that I had as well. So he has allowed me to do many things and be out, and also at the cabinet to be able to talk to students other than not just student athletes. And so it's interesting, and I love it. I just love being able to sit there and to talk to any student that would listen to me.
Yeah, that's great. And it's funny you mentioned the lights, because all my lights are off right now. It's only 4:15, but I'm almost.
I don't know. I mean, where would you consider yourself? Generation Z?
I think I'm Gen Z. I'm right on the cusp. But
Okay, you're on the. Oh, you know what's funny? Every generation will say, "I'm on the cusp," you know. And so I'm not really one or the other, but I have a little bit of both. I think I'm a baby boomer, so. We did many of the things that I say that Generation Z and the baby boomers think a lot alike.
Yeah, I was actually reading something today about that, how we have very, very similar kind of like traits and approaches.
Many of the things that are happening now is similar to back in the 70s as well.
That makes sense. It's funny. And yeah, just to like kind of close out in the final portion of our conversation on kind of a lighter note. So you said your favorite traditions are, and I'm going to use the English names, feel free to correct me, Christmas Eve and Three Kings Day. So what makes these days just so special to you?
So what'd you say was Three Kings and?
Days and Christmas Eve.
Well, Christmas Eve is probably the biggest day, is when, you know, Jesus is born. And so we celebrate, it is a tradition. I mean, we go to midnight mass, and for the little kids, we celebrate earlier. And so they get to open their gifts earlier. And then, I mean, many people celebrate the next day, but the food, girl, the food is incredible. There's like all kinds of Spanish food, and there's music. and there's dancing and a celebration. And it's a time where, you know, I mean, that's my favorite day is when Jesus was born. I mean, I could go on about that. And so the Three Kings is actually in Puerto Rico, they celebrate starting Thanksgiving, which is a big day for us as well. And from there, and I was going to say Thanksgiving, but I was like, but I love the Three Kings. So Thanksgiving, it goes all the way into like early February, and I mean, every weekend they celebrate, but the Three Kings, they really, that is the celebration where the gifts were brought to for baby Jesus. And so they do a skit, and I try to, if I can, I would love, I went there with my mom to Puerto Rico, and my cousins did the skit, and they wanted me to be part of it. I was a little, I don't know about all that, but talk about the music there and the food and the celebration. And so to me, we celebrate that family type of thing, and you couldn't pick two better days where, you know, like I said, I'm one of 8, so our immediate family is like 75 deep, you know. So so when we have one big house, I mean, there's a revolving door, and there's kids everywhere, and you know, we get a Santa Claus to come in, and I mean, it's just incredible. And the music, when you see everybody dancing, and people who really don't know how to dance and they try to dance, it makes it even better. But it is my 2 favorite days. I mean, I have and Thanksgiving, because it's an opportunity to thank everyone for all the good things as well.
And for both those days, you mentioned the food, so I have to ask, what's your favorite dish?
Well, ajo con gandules and ajo con pollo. It's a little bit combination of both. But lately, I've been eating a lot of pernil. You know what that is?
Yes, yeah, I think so.
It's pork.
Okay.
You know, so and the way you cook it, and it's simmered like pretty much for 4 hours straight, and you could just pick at it and eat it. It's pretty incredible. But rice and beans, it can never go wrong. I mean, I could eat that all day. Again, it doesn't help with, you know, you do gain weight. You have to run a little bit more to run 2 more miles for that.
I mean, beans are pretty good for you.
Well, if you do it every day, I don't know.
Okay, so just by way of wrap up, and I mean, you've touched upon so many different things, but if there was one thing about your Hispanic heritage that you could highlight, what would that be?
La familia. I mean, I can't do it without them. They're, you know, they're my Verizon. You know, when you're Verizon, you turn around, they're behind. They've been my rock, and so I have to choose that. You know, if anything, my parents taught. You know, my dad passed away about 7 years now. Yeah, hardest day of my life, but you know, we're real close. We're real close, and I don't know too many people that can be that close. Almost like it's, you know, people say that's weird, but the family to me is everything, and that I hope that I can instill that to every student athlete, how important it is to have family and to make, you know, everything you do about family.
Yeah, that's great. And it seems like over there at St. Francis that you are in your own community of family.
Yeah, I love
like
it.
really incredible. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Morgan. You're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was St. Francis Brooklyn's Irma Garcia, and this has been NEC Now.